Hello folks and welcome to Formula One Paddock Pass, your official start to the race weekend, and welcome to the Bahrain International Circuit. Pit lane walkabout is in full swing as the lights turn on because the sun has gone down. This is of course a nighttime race and it's fabulous, honestly fabulous to be back in Bahrain. Love this place. Spent yesterday at the go-kart circuit, tons of fun. Anyway, enough of that. You want to hear about the teams and the drivers and what's going on, or has been going on in the paddock. Today, of course, we arrive here, Ferrari leading both championships with Sebastian Vettel having won in Australia last time out. Are Ferrari the fastest team? Is it Mercedes? Time will tell. Of course, you can't tell too much after just one race, particularly a race at a Melbourne Grand Prix circuit at Albert Park, which is so different, so unique. We're getting right in the way of your shot now, aren't we? No, it's okay. To all the others that we visit, will this one be a little bit more representative? Potentially. And with that in mind, we find ourselves down here, all right, Greg, down here at Red Bull Racing, who believe they have a very good shot, not just at the podium this weekend, but potentially at the win. Cars look great in race trim in Australia. Sure, they struggled with the Hasses at a certain point, but I think the fact that Daniel Ricciardo was able to set the fastest lap of the race, keep on terms with Kimi Räikkönen, has given them massive confidence coming here to Bahrain. As we said, not just for a podium, but potentially for the race win.
Daniel, coming off the back of Australia, your home race, not exactly how you wanted it to go the whole way through, but it ended up okay. Coming into Bahrain, though, you must feel there's plenty more to gain.
Yeah, it was an up and down weekend. It's just always hectic, the first race, and then because it's home race, it's like it's full on. And then with obviously the Friday incident with the penalty and that, I was, I guess it was not the way I wanted the season to start. But come Sunday, it all kind of became better. I would have obviously loved to get a podium, but the encouraging thing was not only leaving with some points, but the pace we had on Sunday. The race car was really strong, so that left me with the biggest smile.
And not just that, you closing in on Kimi as well. I know it wasn't quite a podium, but a couple more laps and you could have got him and you would have been on the podium. That's some amazing pace to be taking into Bahrain.
Yeah, I think we had the pace. In the end, it probably wasn't down to the amount of laps left. I was there. It was just, he wasn't slow, but it wasn't enough of a pace difference to make a move. It's a tight track, but I think still to kind of follow him so closely for so many laps and to still have the pace at the end to set the fastest lap and whatever, I think it was really encouraging. Our tyres and everything probably weren't in the best place, but to still have that speed was really good.
And Bahrain, it's quite tricky, it's dusty, the conditions are very changing throughout all the sessions. What's your thoughts going into the weekend? I'm
excited. It's a much quieter weekend than Melbourne, and it's nice. It's nice just to come here. The weather's warm. It's pretty chilled, and I've enjoyed this track. It's one where, I've always felt like I've got to grips with it well, but never sit on the podium. So, I think if we can start racking up some podiums early in the season, it'll definitely do us well, for what we're ultimately chasing.
And just finally, everyone's saying Red Bull win, it's going to happen pretty much any time soon. Do you think it could be this weekend?
I'd love to. Yeah, the sooner the better. So I think what was encouraging was, for us it was nice in Sunday in Melbourne, but the others, they could see that we got some good pace. So in qualifying, particularly Mercedes, they certainly have a bit of a rocket. But if we can be close enough, then the race we can definitely fight for it.
Now, after testing, we had hoped that there would be a three-way battle, certainly, at the top between Red Bull, Mercedes and Ferrari, and that seems to be what we've got. The other thing that rang true in Australia after testing is that these guys, Haas, are looking very much like the fourth fastest team in Formula One. But catastrophe during the race itself, as two threaded wheel nuts meant that a phenomenal run during the race and a potential fourth and fifth place finish in the Grand Prix was ripped away from the team. 22 points, which is about half of what they scored in the entirety of last season. God, never getting that back. And just a real kick in the teeth for the team. And for Romain Grosjean and for Kevin Magnussen, of course. We caught up with Kevin Magnussen earlier today. And I think what's clear to see, and having spoken to Romain and to Kevin today, is that while there is massive disappointment over what happened in Australia, the great news is that the car, certainly so far, appears to be as quick as they had hoped and everyone else had feared.
Very pleased. I mean, it was a great weekend until that point, and we're still pumped for for the rest of the season, and happy with the car that we've got so far, and we wanna try and build on that and build the points and do a good championship.
I think we had an idea the car was going to be quick after testing, but to see how fast it was in the race as well, has that surprised you?
I don't know if I was so surprised. I mean, it was nice to go to Australia and confirm that we had carried the performance from Barcelona at least to Australia. But then you always have some doubt, like coming here, for example, we're gonna go on track in FP1, and then on Friday we're gonna see whether we are somewhere in the ballpark again. There's no, it doesn't feel like I'm completely certain of that. I want to see it to believe it, but I have a positive feeling, and I'm looking forward to going on track.
Does that come from last year, where some tracks you'd go to, the car would be great, others it'd be absolutely nowhere? Do you have to go to different circuits, to different characteristics to really have that faith that the car is good everywhere?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, last year we struggled with inconsistency, and this year we want to try and improve that. I feel like we've got a car that is more, a better baseline, so that we don't have these big variables in performance. So we'll see. I mean, hopefully the car will be good again here and the rest of the season. Fingers crossed, we'll do our best.
Good to hear from Kevin Magnussen, and I think the point he was making is certainly something that was reflected by Romain Grosjean as well, which is that the whole team is just trying to keep their feet on the ground, not get too excited until they've been to a number of different circuits with a number of different characteristics to know for sure that this car is, as we said, as good as they hope and everyone else fears. But have they, most importantly, fixed the issue that saw them lose all those points last time round? To find out exactly what went wrong and if they've got on top of it, we spoke to Gunther Steiner earlier today. To talk about the wheel nuts, to talk about the pit stops, and also you can't have helped to have noticed in the few days, weeks since Australia and here have been in their headlines for other reasons as well, as rival teams, perhaps a little scared with these guys' pace, have made certain suggestions that all may not be what it seems with the design of the Haas. Gunther, reflecting on Australia, what's the one thing that sits in your mind the most? Is it the pit stops, or is it the fact that until that point you had both cars very heavily in the points?
Both of it. The negative is the pit stops messed it up, but you go away confident because the cars were in the points, and the car seems to be a good car, so we just need to make up here and in the next 19 races after this one.
That's a very positive way of looking at it. Obviously, the pit stops were the headline after the race. What's changed? What's happened at the team since then? Have you changed anything with the guns, with the nuts? Have you changed anybody around on the car?
No, we didn't change the equipment because the equipment is fine. We changed around the team. Within the team, we changed a few positions just that the guys get their confidence back, because if you do a pit stop like this, it's difficult to do that job 2 weeks after. So we changed a few positions around and we train. We try to practice as much as possible, which we didn't do in Australia. We clearly analyzed why it went wrong. We didn't do enough practice for one reason or the other, which there is no excuse for it, but we had a few issues with the car, especially on Sunday morning, where we couldn't get the crew together to do pit stop practice. The main thing is to train more, and we try to exchange a few positions within the team, the pit stop team, and get them the confidence back.
As you say, though, the car has great pace, not just one lap pace, but race pace as well. How confident are you moving forward?
I mean, we can be confident. I mean, we cannot be arrogant, or we shouldn't be arrogant about it. It's old. There is McLaren and Renault. They are no fools. They will try to beat us. So, but I think if we put a good fight on, we can be in a similar position like we were in Australia.
And obviously, the other headline are the accusations that you've simply taken a Ferrari and painted it grey. How do you react to those kind of comments, those kind of claims coming from rival teams?
I mean, I'm actually tired of reacting. I mean, I don't want to react anymore because it has no substance, So how should I react? I cannot get upset. I cannot get emotional. I don't really care.
Right. So from what could have been down at Haas to what definitely was at McLaren. Again, another pre-season that was not great, pretty hard for them. Reliability issues, and they came to Australia, nobody really knowing if they had the pace, if they had the reliability to make it into the end of the race. But they certainly did. Both drivers home in the points. Van Dorn and Alonso and Fernando, I think, certainly for the first time in a long time, with a bit of confidence, a bit of swagger about him today in the paddock, that finally all those years of ill are coming good. And he can hope, and as you're about to hear, aim not just for points, but aim for those big three teams at the top of Formula One.
I think there is more to come from McLaren. I think that was only the first step. We saw a good performance over the winter, but with some reliability issues that slowed down a little bit the progress. And then in Australia is that time of the year that you need to confirm your expectations and exactly where you are. We are in that middle group still with Haas and Renault probably, but we are not too far from the top three teams, and it's now up to us to deliver upgrades to the car and faster car every weekend, and hopefully close that gap to the top teams. But I think the team is in an optimist mood, and I think if we keep the momentum from Australia to here and China, I think good points are coming for the team, and we can be even more optimistic.
What's the strategy at McLaren? Is it to put the target on Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, or is it to have the target on the team directly in front of you and pick them off one at a time?
No, I think we don't have any clear target. We just make sure that we deliver the results that we see on the wind tunnel, that we see on the factory, with ideas and design projects that we have on paper now to deliver to the track as soon as possible. And obviously we need to outperform Red Bull off the track, bringing more and more new parts to the car. And if we do that, and if we do clever ideas, I think the performance of the car will come very quickly.
And what does this do for you, after so many years of struggle, to finally be at a place where you can be talking realistically about going and chasing after and fighting the Red Bulls, hopefully the Mercedes and the Ferraris?
Well, obviously it's not a big change. You are always hoping for more. Even if you are on the podium, you hope for victory. If you win a race, you hope for 3 consecutive wins to open the gap. So it's always never enough. But it's good to be back, hopefully in a competitive way. Reliability seems good, so you finish the races, you can fight, you can practice, you can prepare the Grand Prix. It's not only the race itself, it's also FP1, FP2, FP3. Build the weekend as we didn't manage the last 3 years. So that's good, and hopefully, we continue this trend here in Bahrain.
Fernando Alonso then feeling pretty confident coming into Bahrain that he can actually start fighting as he's been hoping to over the last few years. Next door at Sauber, there's also hope. There's also renewed vigour and expectation over this season. Now, we said right from the outset they've got one of the most interesting cars certainly to look at. The detailing here on the front wing, they've spent a lot of time creating what is a really intricate, interesting car, one they're still trying to understand fully. With that in mind, they've actually brought in a new head of aerodynamics. He started work on Monday. Jan Moncho has come over from Audi, now heads up Sauber Alfa Romeo's aerodynamics department. So time will tell. Obviously he's only had 4 days at a team, won't be travelling, so isn't here this weekend. Will be factory based, working on making this car a car that can fight up the order and take the fight to the midfield. But certainly the drivers, Marcus Ericsson and Charles Leclerc, already feeling that they have that capability to push beyond where Sauber has found itself languishing over the last few years. Marcus Ericsson only got a few laps on the board in Australia, but the confidence that he showed then, the enthusiasm for what this car and this team can do, was impossible for him to hide. And even arriving here in Bahrain, as you will see, I think just loving the fact that, as he himself said in Australia, I just enjoyed racing again.
What I meant is that last year we had a very difficult year with the old power unit being a big handicap for us, and it was very enjoyable in Australia to be back, with a good package, and it felt like we were actually fighting the other guys, and we kept some Toroses behind, was fighting with the Williams, and that was really lots of fun. And even though my race was very short, it was a very promising start to the year, I think.
Yeah, it was only a couple of laps, but like you said, you were overtaking people, you showed pace. That's something you can take into Bahrain. I know it's a tricky circuit with the heat, with everything that the circuit brings as well. How are you feeling ahead of that?
I'm really looking forward to the weekend. I think, like I said, we had a promising start in Melbourne, and overall the weekend was promising, and feels like we are in that bottom midfield group, and we can mix it up there. So it will be very interesting to see where we are this weekend on a more like normal track compared to Melbourne. So yeah, I'm really curious to see how it goes.
And how close do you think you are looking around? I know it's only been a weekend, so it's difficult, but looking around, you've seen the Haas, the Toro Rossos, you kept them behind you. Yes, a short race, but that's quite encouraging, surely.
Yeah, I think the teams around us should be at Toro Rossos, Williams, maybe Force India. So let's see this weekend if that's the case. But yeah, it's fun to sort of feel that we're in that fight. So let's see how we can do this weekend.
And so we move on to Scuderia Toro Rosso. Pierre Gasly in the car, just getting everything sorted at the start of the weekend. But it is a weekend which is starting, I'm not going to say on the back foot, but certainly not as positively as the team had hoped. Pre-season testing had gone really well with the new Honda engine in the back of the car. Relatively little trouble with it, certainly relatively little reliability issues. But Pierre didn't see the checkered flag in Australia. In the end, it was found to be an issue with the MGU-H and turbo. So Honda went away, took a look at what the issue was. They managed to resolve those issues, to fix them, but in order to do that, they've had to completely redesign the MGU-H and the turbo. That means new ones on Gasly's car, new ones on Hartley's car, which is number 2 of a total seasonal allocation of 3. Grid penalties already looming then down here at Toro Rosso. But how's he feeling about returning to a track on which he fared well in the past? Pole position here during his GP2 campaign, certainly a track on which he should have some confidence.
It's always nice, to come back on a track where you had a great results. So now I feel good. Just excited to be back in the car. It's new weekend, new opportunity for us to fight for 4 points, and yeah, hopefully we'll have a good one.
Some engine part changes, a bit of a worry because obviously you've only got a certain amount of season. Reliability, is there any issues with that? And we're only in the second race.
Yeah, I mean it's not the ideal start, of course, but yeah, I mean we changed to 2018 spec, new MGU-H, new turbo, new IC as well. So we just expect it to be more reliable. There won't be any performance gain, but at least we don't expect to have any issues with it. So that's the main thing. Of course, it's not the ideal start. We already in the second race changed parts on the engine, but that's how it is. And yeah, I just hope we can have a clean weekend.
Already looking then like a fairly tough year down at Toro Rosso, a season that promised so much. And talking about promise, we are down here at Renault, of course, right in the mix of that really intense midfield battle with the likes of Haas and McLaren and potentially as well Force India. What can these guys do? Obviously both cars in the points in Australia. Great way to start the season, hoping they can pick up more points this weekend in Bahrain.
Carlos, off the back of Australia, how are you feeling coming into Bahrain?
Feeling good. I think it's a nice change, coming here to Bahrain, always weather's good. Weekend is always good. I think this track produces some exciting racing on Sunday, so I'm looking forward to racing here on Sunday with more than a one stop and having some chances to overtake.
And Australia was tricky for you. It's very hot here again. Have you sorted out the issue with your fluids and things like that?
Yeah, it was not. It was from my point of view, and after a big analysis that I did with my whole team, it was probably a digestion problem more than a fluid thing. It was. I was feeling fit during the whole race. I was feeling fit in pre-season testing. It was just that I had a digestion cut and I had a banana that was not testing very well apparently before the race, and that wasn't very positive either.
Putting that aside, Bahrain, is it a circuit you enjoy? Is it quite tricky?
It is a tricky circuit, very tricky, especially because it demands a lot from the rear tires, from the braking. The cars suffer around here. Also, if it's hot like it is today, even if it's at night, the cars also struggle out there. And for us, it could be a good Grand Prix. I think we can get both cars into the points again and have an exciting Sunday.
Now, it was a fairly tough start to the season for Williams in Australia. Fast pit stops can only do so much with a car which is not to the liking of either driver right now. Sergei Sirotkin, Formula One rookie, of course, never made it to the checkered flag. Ultimately, it was a plastic bag, we believe, that got caught in the brakes and ultimately overheated the brakes and led to the brake failure, which saw him out of the race. So not ideal for him. Post-race, he said it was the intensity of the F1 weekend which had caught him most off guard, just the sheer amount of work to do. But we know the car is a tricky one. He's arriving here at a circuit that he loves. How much will that have an impact on what he now is classifying as his real start to his Formula One career?
Had quite a bit of time looking at the things, and I'm quite sure we found some interesting points all around. So let's see. I mean, it's also such a different track, such a different weather. So it doesn't automatically mean that what we found there it's going to be directly, giving the results here. Let's see. I mean, it's going to be many new things again. So many different outputs we have in the car and the track and everything. So and it's good because like this we can take it more like a new weekend, and that's what I try to take it in this way. Like season starts here. Okay, the Melbourne was a good experience. I mean, bad experience, but it's we can turn it around as some experience and then. So yeah, I mean, just need to start going. To the key I think is just to bring back the confidence, the expectations. First of all, from me, from my performances, from also from what we expect from the car, from overall where we expect to be, which we obviously didn't find exactly what we wanted to see in Melbourne. So it's going to be just very important just to go nicely and through the weekend, and just to build up some confidence back, so we can use it later on, like going to China, already getting some knowledge and some confidence.
Now, if we take it as read that Williams, Sauber and Toro Rosso are the three teams kind of fighting over that, I say it's not the glorious position that they want towards the back of the midfield, and towards the back of the midfield means towards the back of the grid. Which team ultimately comes next? And quite incredibly, it's a team that has occupied fourth position for a good many years now. Force India finds themselves, we think, probably about the seventh fastest team in Formula One right now. But they have an upgrade this weekend. Ta-da! A new front wing. I believe that's a new front wing. The tech people would tell you more than I could. But they have a new front wing this weekend. Certainly they'll be trialling it during free practice on Friday. The whole car was new pretty much arriving in Australia. The only part that wasn't new was the front wing, which was the one that they had introduced for the Singapore Grand Prix last season. Is that the new front wing?
I don't really know, to be honest.
Brilliant. It's okay. None of us do. Great. Okay. It's only a small detail. Who knows? Anyway, or it might be one of these. Right here. Either way, there's a new front wing at Force India. Will it take them up to the 6th, 5th, 4th fastest team in the sport? Unlikely. There's a lot of work to be done at the team to get them back to the position that they're used to. But as Sergio Perez knows only too well, if there is one team that can turn around a difficult start to a season and bring results at the end, it's the Pink Panthers.
In the past, we seen this one has been a circuit where we struggle a lot, especially last year. We struggled a massive amount. But I do expect that we can be probably a bit closer to the midfield. We're definitely trying to understand our new package, and we have a big task, ahead of us. We want to close the gap to the people in front of us.
You say close the gap to the midfield. Where does that put you at the moment? Towards the bottom?
Yeah, I think we are right at the bottom of the midfield at the moment. But the team is pushing really hard. I've always said, it doesn't really matter where you start in Melbourne, it's where you finish in Abu Dhabi. We have a long season ahead of us, and I'm very optimistic that we will be up there fighting with the midfield group.
Saying that, you were unlucky not to finish in the points in Australia. Do you think you should have done?
Not really. Not in pace, I think without the problem of Sainz, was really close. I don't know what problem he had, but I was really close to him 1 second, but just overtaking was very much impossible in Melbourne.
So is this going to be more of a reflective race of where everybody is?
It's quite a different challenge, to Melbourne. I think once 4 races have gone through, then you have a clear picture on where everyone is.
And so, to the sharp end of the grid, Mercedes practicing pit stops as well, and with Valtteri Bottas's car. Now, in the number 77 is the control module that was involved in his crash in qualifying on Saturday in Australia. So the control electronics, basically they wanted to test it after to see if it was okay. In order to do that, they had to send the module back to Brixworth. The battery got sent straight out here because you need to fill in a lot of paperwork to get one of those big batteries sent home. Fairly dangerous transporting batteries. So the battery got transported straight here. The module sent home, put in the car. They're going to test it Friday morning just to doubly make sure. There goes Valtteri back into the garage. Just to doubly make sure it's all okay. They won't put it back in the race pool until they've run it for at least 3 Friday practice sessions, I believe. And not just 3 practice sessions here, but 1 here, 1 in, where are we going next? China. And then Baku. So won't be back in the race pool until then. They just want to be 100% sure that it is okay, because it was a big shunt and it got shaken around a lot. Anyway, be that as it may, on to Valtteri Bottas talking about that crash. Yeah, not the best way to open your account in 2018 for Valtteri, but he knows he's got to get his head down, get on with the job, which is, getting back to race-winning ways, certainly back on the podium this weekend for Mercedes. I don't play tennis, but I imagine if you screw up your first serve, and you've then got all that pressure on you to not double fault. It must be massive. After a weekend in Australia that wasn't perfect, how do you not double fault? How do you keep that pressure not to have another bad weekend?
I don't really play tennis either. I drive racing cars, so I come here with a completely neutral mindset. That's the best thing to do. Everything has been analyzed from the disappointing weekend. We know all the notes, what to do better, what we did well. And that's it. It's a new weekend ahead, and there's 20 races to go. So the worst thing to do at this point would be to panic and to try to force yourself a good result. So, feel very, very neutral.
And how's the car underneath you?
I think it's going to be a challenge this year. I think we have a good car, but so does other teams. Ferrari was quick in Melbourne. They were really quick here in 2017, and even Red Bull is not far away. So we know it's going to be a tough year. Again, close weekend, so we need to get everything right if we want to have a good result as a team, which is what we need.
And did Australia show the need for both drivers to be, absolutely extracting the maximum at every possible opportunity?
Definitely, there's at the moment there's 3 teams in the fight, there's 2 drivers for each team, so you need to be the other 50% bringing the maximum points.
And as you said, there's no need to get stressed out. There's no need to look too deeply in it so far. Does the season really start for you from this weekend?
Well, yeah, for sure. It started in Melbourne in a way. I got some points, so every point is important. But yes, in my mindset, yes, it's the start of the season, and I'm happy to be here after a disappointing race.
To Ferrari. Leading the World Championship, Sebastian Vettel having won in Australia, but there's a big feeling that his teammate actually did the better job over the weekend. Outpaced his German world champion teammate in qualifying, did a great job in the Grand Prix itself, and certainly in terms of the way this car drives, it seems more suited to Raikkonen's style. Sebastian, still after Australia, was saying he's not 100% happy with the way the car drives. It's going to take him a while to dial himself into the car or get the car dialed in to him. Kimi, though, really seems at home with it, really seems confident, and for the first time in a couple of years has that. We're talking about swagger, we're talking about that confidence. Kimi's got it right now, and a confident Kimi is a dangerous Kimi.
I think we had a pretty decent, straightforward weekend in Australia. For sure, things can always be improved, but that's, I think, after any race, even if you win, if we have 1-2, we still have things to improve. So let's wait and see. I think we had a pretty good feeling with the car, and hopefully it's same in here, and we'll go from there and try to work on things what we believe is some work, and after first few runs, and see where we are.
Seb's admitted the car still doesn't suit his driving style tremendously. It seems to suit your style better. Would you say that's fair?
Depends. I think we've been in 2 circuits with the car. So Barcelona, like we said, the weather was very winter weather. So Melbourne is quite specific. It's circuit in many ways with the setup and everything else. So let's wait a bit longer and see how it is. And I think there's always, like I said, there's always things to improve and do better. And more days we get in the car, more things we learn, and obviously it involves from there. So it's very early days with the car in the end. It's not a lot of days that we run. So let's wait and see a bit.
So That's your lot from Paddock Pass here in Bahrain. What, I hear you ask? No Sebastian Vettel, no Lewis Hamilton? No. We figured you'd hear quite enough out of them for the rest of the weekend. Anyway, that's it. That is your warm-up for the weekend as the fan walk is coming to an end. The weekend is beginning. Cannot wait for it all to start here in the desert and ultimately for the race under the lights come Sunday. But for now, from us here in Bahrain, it's a very warm goodbye.